Thanks so much for having me here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't help but notice, since 6:15 to 7:15 was billed as the social hour, that must mean my part of the program is the anti-social hour. Let's hope it doesn't get that bad. By the way, I'm wearing a seersucker suit, and somehow, living in LA, the word sucker seemed appropriate. But have you ever wondered, by the way, whatever happened to Roebuck? Remember Sears and Roebuck? What happened to Roebuck? A really bad agent or something. Same agent I had. You know, when Ellen Vukovich invited me to be here, and then she sent me the flyer for the event as a description of who I am and what I do, I was described as controversial, the controversial dog show I was talking about. And I suppose in today's world, especially in the world we live in Los Angeles, it's probably true, because the things that I say and believe in, I'm shocked to hear myself described as controversial, because these are essentially the same core American values that we were all raised with and grew up with. And I just am constantly amazed to find that the values that were the common currency of this country have now become somehow controversial in America's second largest city. But I guess it is, and so be it. If this is the ground on which we have to stand, and this is the ground upon which we'll stand. And oh, by the way, I do want to thank Costco for the dessert buffet, and afterwards we're going to have an insulin platter passed around, just to take the edge off of that. Like 7 slices of cheesecake into the evening. The theme of my address here is life in Los Angeles, and when Ellen asked, well, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, let's come up with something truly generic that won't pin me down to anything. So we came up with life in Los Angeles, and it occurs to me to go to a description of 2 other cities by Charles Dickens from A Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And I think that does apply to Los Angeles. It does apply in many ways to the situation we have here, because we do see some amazing things happening in Los Angeles that are wonderful. We see parts of the city that are more beautiful, they've been beautified, and that's a good thing. And we see some incredibly committed and dynamic people of all races, creeds, and colors doing incredible and dynamic things. And then we see some scenes of horror, and that's the only word for it, is horror, in the streets and in the classrooms and in families and in the halls of politics that well, the only word, I mean, we've reported on things on my show on a daily basis that if you crossed out the word Los Angeles and you wrote Fallujah or Najaf or Baghdad, the stories would be right at home. And somehow we have accepted what is unacceptable and folded it into our lives, the murders, the endless, ceaseless body count of young people killed in gang warfare, that, you know, I always harken back to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which we all heard about in Chicago, and it was so horrible when some gangsters killed gangsters that it made the encyclopedia. It's in your Funkin' Wagnalls if you still have those. We only, by the way, got A, because that was 49 cents, and the others. So we knew everything about A. From B on, we're pig ignorant in my house. But the thing is, somebody told me that the St. Valentine's Day Massacre is in the S's, and it's in the Britannicas. And what really happened on that day? Some gangsters in Chicago killed other gangsters, but it so horrified the nation, it didn't just make the newspapers, it made the encyclopedia. And today, this happens with such routineness, such blasé everydayness, that we've folded it into our lives. Like on Monday morning, you check the box score to see how many hits did Manny Ramirez hit, how many kids got killed, and it's only 8 this weekend, not too bad. We had 12 people shot on an everyday weekend last year. This is appalling. We've had raging gun battles. This is appalling. And with all due respect to Officer Carter and to the great work, and I mean this sincerely from the bottom of my heart, I think we have a tremendous police department. It's one of the toughest cities in the world to police. They're understaffed, underappreciated, over-scrutinized. They're caught in a political minefield, and it's an enormous geographic area that they have to patrol and secure. So they have their hands cut out for them. But when we see these statistics that violent crime is down, frankly, Maybe, maybe not. And I would make the argument that the murder rate has dropped because the trauma units in hospitals are better than they were 20 years ago, that the paramedics have better equipment on the ambulances, and we saved lives that we lost years ago. And if you take the number of people who are shot, and then the number of people who are shot and killed, and then the number of people who are shot at, but just for the luck of God are missed, I don't think that we can say that the city and violent crime is on the downslope. And sorry, Mr. Mayor, this city is not safer than it was in the 1950s. Just a lie. And this is where I guess it becomes controversial, because I have discovered in my 23 years in Los Angeles that in LA you get in trouble with the truth, but the sugar-coated lie is palatable to everybody. And the media in this city, frankly, drives the getaway car. The most recent example of this was when we went to Councilman Jack Weiss's office to free Walter Moore's version of Jamil's Law, actually Dennis Zine's toothless version of Jamil's Law, from the Public Safety Committee so that the public could have a public hearing on a revision of Special Order 40 to take away sanctuary city protections to illegal alien gangbangers. And we want this voted on by the full council because we want to see, does the council stand with the honest citizens of Los Angeles, of all nationalities, of all ethnicities, or do they stand with the gangbangers? Because that's the only way to interpret that vote. Because this is real simple. This is not a left-right issue. This isn't a Republican-Democrat issue. This is an issue of right and wrong, period. So, within 24 hours' notice, 200 people showed up in front of Councilman Weiss's office, along with Anita Shaw and Jamil Shaw Sr., and Danielle Bologna. If you don't know the Bologna story, I'll tell it as briefly as possible. It's as horrific as it gets. Danielle Bologna, her husband and two boys, Matthew and Michael, were driving home at 3 in the afternoon in San Francisco on a sunny Sunday afternoon. They made the mistake of making a three-point turn in a narrow San Francisco street, encountered an illegal alien gangbanger, MS-13 member named Edwin Ramos, who emptied an AK-47 into the car and killed her love of her life and her two boys. This is in a city, San Francisco, that takes taxpayers' money and puts up billboards in Spanish advertising that they are a sanctuary city and hires immigration attorneys at the public's expense to make it possible for illegal aliens to become legal residents and stay. This family was cut in half, and now she's kissing pictures. That's her phrase, kissing pictures. It's an outrage. The Shaws, if you don't know, lost their boy, Jamil Shaw II, while Anita Shaw was serving in Iraq as a sergeant in the United States Army. This is outrageous. And what has the city of Los Angeles done about it? They banned plastic bags. We want to ban body bags. They're banning plastic bags. So on the day that 200 people showed up at 9:30 in the morning on a work week, in the middle of a work week, in front of Councilman Weiss's office, where was Councilman Weiss? He was with the mayor in Westwood, cutting the ribbon on a diagonal crosswalk. And where was the Los Angeles Times and sadly the Los Angeles Daily News? They were with the mayor and Councilman Weiss taking a picture of him cutting a ribbon on the crosswalk. Now, one word appeared in print about the kind of community activism that both newspapers pontificate endlessly in editorial after editorial that they encourage. But when it actually shows up, silence. And that's why I say they drive in a getaway car, and TV's even worse. So, what do we do about it? Well, when we're